In the previous class, we saw this example of the counter where you can go and add count and similarly go decrement the count. I'm going to open this page in a new tab. Let me close rest of the tabs. Now the page title, if you notice closely, says React App. Let me zoom in the page a little bit. That doesn't really help with the tab. But anyway, the tab currently says React App. Let's say I want to say the tab to be saying how many times we have clicked. So we need to change this property. If we go document.title, let's see JavaScript document.title, right? And we say the title is this head title. So if I go in my public HTML, currently the title says React App, and I want to say the title as you have clicked. Let's say you have clicked n times, and I don't know what this n is right now. So if I refresh here, it says you have clicked n times. But this is static HTML that we just went and changed on here. This really doesn't take the value of this count from the JavaScript variable, which is right here. Right, so it's not able to take this as an input since it is static HTML. Let me just change it back to something which is pretty simple. Yeah, React App. There is a way to do it to change the document title from JavaScript. And let's say if I'm on this page, I'll open the console. Let me zoom this in a little bit as well. And I'll say document.title is equal to, and I'll put some value, you have clicked here. And if we notice instantly, the title becomes you have clicked here, right? So there is a way from JavaScript to change that document title. How do we do it in React? Let's go back to our app.js. So how do I start putting up that document title whenever this count value changes? Because essentially I want to go and say here, you have clicked. For right now, it will be you have clicked 0 times. When we increment by 1, I want it to automatically change to you have clicked 1 times, right? It's not happening automatically right now. Let's go back to our React code. Notice this thing is manipulating the DOM itself, right? So it is running out of the context that React runs. React only works with components. This is going directly to the DOM and modifying things. This can be considered as what is called as an effect. I'll just write it down. Effects, they are also called as side effects. And whenever we talk about effects or side effects, even though side effects sounds like a negative word, it is a pretty useful thing. It is called side effects or effects in the sense that they are running out of the basic JavaScript or basic React's environment, but they still provide value for our application. So what all could be the examples of running effects? Since our JavaScript and React essentially runs, or basically React essentially runs with only components, it doesn't go to the DOM. So direct DOM manipulations are also effects. Like right now we were going and changing the title in the HTML DOM directly, just going document.title. That's a side effect. Another example of a side effect, when we go and when we fetch data, let's say from a network call, we use Axios or Fetch or whatever, we make a network call, we hit a server endpoint and we get some new data. That's also a side effect. Why? Because that is not in control of React, right? React and JavaScript are only dealing with the JavaScript part. They don't care where the data is coming from, but this data is coming from a server. It may come, it may not come, it may take some time to come, and this is not essentially in control of React or JavaScript. Essentially, it's going out of your browser's environment and trying to fetch data. So fetching data is also in effect. Let me see what else could be in effect, right? The DOM also has an API and again, we are talking about more different DOM APIs, is if you go in your tab, browser tab, application, there is something called local storage. There are also cookies, WebSQL, IndexedDB, session storage, but local storage is something generally that you'll be using a lot more, or it has the most friendly APIs, and it's available everywhere. So saving data to the local storage, that's another DOM API. So we'll write DOM APIs like local storage. And the local storage APIs are very simple. Local storage, MDN. You just have to do local storage.set, give the key that you want to set and the variable you want to set. And similarly, when you want to get an item, you just give the key of that item. Pretty simple API, but even if this is also as an effect, since it's going out of that little browser window of that JavaScript runtime, it is not part of the React. It does not ship with React. It has to go talk to your browser if it has the local storage and try to store the data there. Another example of what an effect could be, another example of the effect would be, it's a tricky one to understand, but if you have ever used set interval, which is for scheduling things when you say, or set timeout, essentially. Set timeout is for scheduling things in a way. That when you want to perform an action after a certain given amount of time, or set interval is when you want to repeatedly perform the action in a set given interval of time. These look like JavaScript APIs. You simply go and say set interval or set timeout, and they take a function, and it's even showing what sort of an API it is. But it is still not talking directly to React or the JavaScript environment. Internally, they are as two separate environments. There is a really, I think, JavaScript 3 covers this, and they even put up a really good talk that tells you how they are different. But anyway, set timeout, set interval also are an effect. So why are we talking about these effects? Because React provides a way to deal with these effects. I'm going to remove all of this since this is not code, or I'm going to just simply comment it out. Or maybe just move it on the top of this page so that you guys know what these effects are we talking about. So what do we want to do again? Let's go back. We want to go and change this by doing document.title is equal to, you have clicked one time. Let's go and look here. Is this is direct DOM manipulation, which means it is part of an effect. To use an effect, you simply go and do use effect. So I'm importing use effect again from React, very similar to how I imported use state from React. I'm going to use something called use effect. What an effect is, why we want use effect, will get clear as you practice, as you go along. But for now, just understand that these certain amount of things are sort of an effect. You can think more things of an effect as well. But certainly these are a few examples of what an effect would be. And we want to change the document title, which is direct DOM manipulations. It is not a good thing to do in React, but hey, we have use effect and we can use it. So use effect takes a function. Let's start with this. Use effect takes two arguments. The first is a function. I'm going to just leave it blank. And if I look the second argument, so the use effect has one argument, which is the effect callback or a function essentially. And the second is a dependency. This is a pretty interesting and a tricky part. I will not be covering this completely. This will be something which we go on in week 3 as well. But for now, let's just not think about that dependency and start doing something. So I'm going to do use effect, and inside of this function, which is the callback for the use effect, I can create my effect. I can go and cause my effect. So what was our effect here? Our effect was directly manipulating the DOM, and it was by writing document.title is equal to something. So I'm going to go here and do the same. I'm writing an effect inside of my use effect callback function. Document.title is equal to And let me put it in backticks so that I can always do you have clicked. And I'm gonna put the count here. You have clicked this much amount of times. I think everything should be working fine. Let me go back and try to render this page. And everything does work. I'm going to remove this from the console. Now it says currently you have clicked 0 times. As soon as I click here, it says you have clicked 1 time. You have clicked 2 times, 3 times. If I decrement, it's gonna basically take this value and start putting it there because that's what we told our application to do. In the use effect, we are saying change the document, directly manipulate the DOM, go change the title of the document to this value, and this value is taking something from the state. So this is essentially how you would use effect in one way. I also talked about what use effect does essentially in the beginning. So use effect has, if you want to do any of these effects, manipulating the DOM, fetching the data, um, if you want to talk to other DOM APIs which are not directly available with the React environment, or you want to do scheduling, things like set interval, set timeout, you have to use effects. Next, we're going to see how we can fetch data with use effect.